And let's go to CNN senior investigative correspondent Drew Griffin now. Drew, tell us what you're finding out about the suspect. Obviously, he has a social media footprint, although not one as alarming as other school shooters that you've looked at in the past.
Certainly not from the shootings that we've covered in the past. Nothing that stands out or glares out. A few things came up. We do know, apparently, from other students, he wore a trench coat. He wore a trench coat every day. He wore that trench coat today, 90 degrees. That's how he was able to get the shotgun into the school. We also know, just from a couple of students, that he was quiet. But as the governor said, and as we found on his Facebook page and other social media before it was taken down, this suspect really didn't have any warning signs, and as the governor called him, he was a clean slate.
And Drew, moments ago, we learned from authorities that they're investigating at the very least, the possibility of accomplices. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we do know that there was an 18-year-old student who was detained. According to the governor, that student acted suspiciously or acted strangely at the school after the incident, was taken into custody, and then the governor referred to another suspect. Didn't give us any details on that, but it sounds like an investigative lead led them to that. One other thing the governor said in response to a question, Jake, no reason to suspect any person other than the suspect in custody was involved in making those bombs.
Demetrius Pogorchis, 17, had scant details of his life on Facebook before the page disappeared, but this is what CNN was able to confirm before Facebook removed him from its platform. Pogorchis says he started attending Santa Fe High School 3 years ago. He posted pictures of himself showing what appears to be a normal, nondescript high school student. But on April 30th, less than a month ago, he also posted this, a custom black T-shirt that says, "Born to Kill." Indications are the shooter may have been wearing this T-shirt when he went to school this morning. Another post, a black duster jacket with Nazi, communist, fascist, and religious symbols. And under the name Kamikaze, Pogorchis posted 3 rap songs on YouTube. That is it. The rest, typical teen. A photo of him in a church group. Other photos showing an average American. On his Facebook page, he showed interest in joining the U.S. Marine Corps starting in 2019, he wrote. Before high school, he attended Santa Fe Junior High, where he was listed on the 6th grade honor roll. He was mentioned as a standout player on the school's JV football team a few years ago, but that is it. Law enforcement tells CNN at this point they have no reason to believe he was on anybody's radar, and so far there is no explanation for why he would have done this.
Jake, we did check with the Marine Corps. They have no record this kid showed any interest to them in becoming a U.S. Marine.
We know that this accused shooter posted this image, a T-shirt that read "Born to Kill." He also had Nazi images, a pin on his page, a hammer and sickle, and others. Would those in and of themselves raise red flags for a law enforcement officer?
Absolutely, and they should for anybody. And I think part of the issue here is that we're kind of taking a passive approach to looking at red flags, and we're only looking at social media and saying what he posted, but he had a network, he had a community that assisted him in carrying out this act. We already know that there's another potential suspect. So that means that there's at least one other person and potentially others that knew about or potentially involved in what he was planning. So I think we should start to focus more so on the human factors and start to look a little bit closer at these red flags and not taking such a passive approach as we have.
Art Roderick, the governor said that the shooter, his weapons were a shotgun and a .38 revolver, which he took from his father. It's unclear whether the father allowed him access to the guns or not. What do investigators do with that information?
Well, I mean, first of all, those are usually generally given right away to ATF to go and check the history of both those weapons, where they were purchased, where they were picked up from, what kind of access did this kid have with the father's weapons at home? Were they locked in a safe? Did he have access to the safe? So there's a lot of questions about how he actually got his hands on the weapons. It appears at this particular point in time, those weapons were purchased legally. It's just going to be a matter of how he accessed them to bring them into school that day. And one quick point on the social media end of it, Jake, I think we tend to strictly look at Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, email accounts. But you know, as we've heard in past cases involving communications, especially between teenagers, the first thing I would do is grab that Xbox or that PlayStation, that gaming device, because they're able to communicate with one another and pass messages back and forth on those types of devices. So there could be a ton of information on those types of gaming devices of how he had planned to actually pull this particular thing off with other accomplices.
And Josh Campbell, walk us through the process right now that the FBI and others, Harris County sheriffs and police, are undergoing right now, trying to get to the bottom of a motive, especially knowing that the accused gunman is alive. It's unclear if he's cooperating, but he's able to talk to investigators.
That's right. We have so many questions right now that we don't have answers to, which is the primary reason why I took great exception with respect to the governor coming out and saying that there were no red flags. It is too soon to tell whether there were red flags. We do not know. As law enforcement officers, this is a complex investigation. Not only do you have information you're getting from the subject as far as determining, you know, what he's actually telling you, but you're going to want to corroborate that through physical evidence, looking at his residence, going through looking at these devices. You're going to want to talk to those associates. You're going to want to talk to people who, you know, may have been in his orbit, who may have suspected, may have seen something, and provide that information. So to say now that, you know, there were no warning signs, there were no red flags is just completely premature.